Hi, today in the podcast, I have a very dynamic youngster, my junior from school, Aditya Bansal, who's built a career for himself now primarily in the field of internal audit. And that's why we are here to understand his views on how this entire world of internal audit works, the pros and cons, daily life as an internal auditor. Does he really feel zapped at the end of the day that where am I stuck? Or does he see promise in this field? So the primary motivation here was that a lot of youngsters get an offer in the world of internal audit when they graduate as chartered accountants or even as BCom, MComs, CA inter. Internal audit, Aditya will tell what are the statutory compulsions, why internal audit is required, and why otherwise internal audit adds value in a company. So welcome to the show, Aditya. Thanks for sparing your time out here.
Yeah, thank you, Anurag, for calling me. So, thank you for a very brief, come long introduction about me.
Yeah. So
Uh,
quick intro about yourself in terms of why CA, which schooling, which college, which city, just so that people can get a quick 60-second background about yourself.
yeah, so why CA? I would say I would definitely did not want to do CA, anything but a CA. So, how did this kick in? So, I remember it was 2008. I was in class 10, and CA there were reduction in the number of enrollments. I think in 2008. So, CA Institute took up that opportunity, and they came to our school, Don Bosco School, Lilwa. This is where I did my schooling from, high school, and they told us about the pros and cons of chartered accountancy, this course, and so that is where this thing kicked in. That I can do a chartered accountancy, and I come from a background of Marwadi Baniya businessmen. So there's no one who had up till then, except for my father, graduated even completed their graduation. So I come from that background. Uh, so that is how CA happened. I enrolled in class 10, and after my class 12, so we had a bunch of friends, come classmates who were equally interested in chartered accountancy, जैसे Calcutta, and in Calcutta, most people want to do chartered accountancy, pursue this course. So we also enrolled, and in fact, I remember I enrolled on the last day of the uh, enrollment. Same, I did it for my company secretary. So for a company secretary, it was an interesting anecdote. So my Tauji, so basically my father's elder brother. So he came to me and told me, "Ki, what are you doing?" So I said, "I have enrolled for chartered accountancy. I'll do my CPT, give my CPT." So he said, "So CSB kar le." So I said, "Tauji, interest nahi hai." So he said that, "Okay, uh, तो क्या करेगा? So what will you do now?" साथ में कर रहे, स्पोर्ट्स सेम है, सब कुछ सेम है. So this is how it began. So I did my CPT, I did my and then completed my finals in 2014, and then I moved to Wipro. So through in CA Institute's campus recruitment program, and I worked there for 2 years. 1 year in the order to cash division, in the contractual risks and compliances team, and where I was actually reviewing the contracts, the master service agreements, the contracts from a financial angle, the pricing part and everything. And then finally, I moved to internal audit. Uh, and due to some reasons, I had to come back to Calcutta. Then I joined EY for a brief stint of 2 years, where I was in the government advisory division, which is the primary risk advisory services. How how they divide their segments. So there it was internal audit, backtrack to making the internal audit SOPs, internal audit charters for government clients. And then after 2 years, I understood that this is not a place to be in terms of advisory services. And then I wanted to move to an MNC and do a proper internal audit job, because until then I had realized that I had a knack for internal audit. So then I moved to Dabur. Dabur happened, and I was in the Eastern region. I was heading the Eastern region audit division, where I was in charge of conducting audits of the plants and the sales offices in the eastern zone of India, as well as Dabur Bangladesh. And after completing 3 years, I got this opportunity in Greenpanel Industries Limited, which I am currently in, where I am heading the audit division entirely. So I have a 5-member team here, and I am into. So if you ask me what my daily routine would be, so basically how it happens in internal audit. So we make an annual audit plan, we present it to the board of directors, take their approval, conduct audits based on the scope, and then do an interim reporting to them quarterly. So that's about it.
So basically, when did you realize that you're really good at internal audit? I mean, because I would feel that a lot of people just do not have that knack for getting data out of that their own company, because there is this inhibition कि मुझे से data लेके मेरी मारेगा last में. So how do you get that done? And then how do you stay relevant? Because like one problem statement which I had during that brief audit stint that I had at Deloitte was that first time you go in a factory, in a port, on a sales office, you can find out maybe a dozen points. But after 3 months, how do you stay relevant? Because all the points that you wanted to find out, everything came in the first shot. So do you keep some cards up your sleeve and say, okay, this is for the next report, and then is it like that? So what are the tricks of the trade? What are the highs and lows in this trade? What is the daily life for internal auditor? Is it frustrating? Is that high points? So, and especially like you're in a listed company, so that I think would have its own ramifications in terms of companies acts and start audit being different entities, etc.
So I'll break your question into parts. So first, to answer your first part, when did I realize that I had a knack for internal audit? It was during my stint at Wipro. So we were, reviewing large deals, and I always had this, attention to detail thing, where I would get engrossed in to understand the business. First of all, internal audit is a very good area for a youngster to come and start his career. And I was fortunate enough that I started almost my career with internal audit. So, and there I realized that you get a bird's eye view of the entire organization, staying in this department, because I don't think there is any other division or department who would give you exposure to the business side, to the finance side, to taxation, to treasury. So all these are processes for you, and when you audit each of these processes, you ultimately understand the nuances, tricks, and trades of each of these, departments. So you understand the organization. So maybe for a taxation perspective, taxation guy who is working in the taxation department, he's only thinking from a taxation perspective. But when I think from an internal, or I have worked as an internal auditor in an organization for maybe like 2 to 3 years, I understand maybe this may be beneficial from the taxation perspective, but uh, considering the business aspect, we have a win-loss scenario. So overall, I think your horizon broadens, your thought process broadens, and that is where this gives you a lot of insight. So maybe a person who has worked in a department for entire career of 10 years, 5 years, or 15 years, he will not have maybe the understanding of business. He'll not have the understanding of balance sheets. Maybe he's not have the understanding of how marketing team works. And to answer your second part of the question, how do you? So I wish I had this thing that that I could decide the scope, and I could keep tricks up my sleeve, you know, and but unluckily or luckily, I have a board to answer. So I have to give my entire scope and whichever areas we are auditing. So it is always easy to say that internal audit may, so they are auditors, so they can skip one or two areas and you move on and next time you can use it. But we have board to answer, we have statutory audit to answer, and many a times statutory audit raises a point which is linked to an internal control or an internal audit point, which then board can ask us that how was it missed during your audit of that scope. Okay, so we have to keep a lot of things and checks and balances in our perspective. So that's about it. Uh,
I think that's important. It's not your own baby. I mean, there are a lot of other stakeholders. Yeah, but
and one
there
more,
is
and
one
one
great
I would
secret.
like to add. I would
All
like to
points are
add
not
that
discussed in one quarter. Some are kept up the sleeve for the next quarter. Is that
no, no.
true?
So even if that is the case, it is a mistake from our end that we missed that point in the checklist. And when we are, we are doing some other area or some other scope, and we realize, okay, this can be an angle. Or when I talk to my internal audit friends, or when I talk to my functional guys. I talk to a lot of functional guys who are in the accounting domain, and they tell us this is something that new has come up. So then then it rings a bell. So I'll give you a very classic example. Matlab, in one of the organizations that I worked for, so there was a case where uh, uh, we did a travel audit, and you understand that for travels it has to generally go to HOD and however you have designed your DOA matrix. So it was designed correctly, but in the system it was designed incorrectly. So the point was that whoever raises a request, uh, their bosses would be intimated, and it would be approved. So I was going through. So I was in hospital, and I was in some work, and my junior said that, sir, I want to raise a request, but there is some issue in the portal, so can you raise a request for me? So I said, you can ask some other guy to do it. He said that if I ask the other department guy to do it, his boss will approve that thing. So then it rung a bell that, okay, so the system has been designed incorrectly, and so that point maybe came up in the next audit, that the control issue is there.
And I think when there's a company which is in a continuous capex phase, then you get a lot of new food for thought, new factories, new greenfield projects happening, or when there is an SAP implementation. I think that's how you stay relevant continuously in internal audit as well.
No, I somehow disagree with you, Anurag, because even in a running plant, even if you are doing an audit for maybe 3 or 4 times of that plant, you know, first of all, you don't do an audit for an area, or how have you designed it, that depends. But generally, you do take up an audit once or twice in a year. Okay, even if you're doing it for 4 quarters, you're not doing all areas in all the 4 quarters. Okay, so
Areas
you
will be
do.
P2C, P2P like that. You divide the areas.
Yeah. So we decide areas as processes. Some people decide areas as locations. Okay, so they might be present in geographies and locations, so define an area as a geography or a location. But generally, in most organizations, they design their internal audit scope in such a manner that they cover all the areas in a year or 2 years. Okay, so we don't do every quarter same area, same activity. Okay, so maybe in 3 years you are doing the taking up that audit thrice, right? So even if you are taking up an area in the second time, your thought process and your everything would have been updated in maybe in that span of 1 year, because you have worked in some other area, and you get some input, some insights, and then you add it up. So that is your value add. And plus, I have this, I think that the operations team have new ways of doing errors. So once you catch that, they have a tendency, okay, I will take care about this next time. But next time they take up some other issue, some other area.
Fantastic, fantastic. What does Aditya do for fun?
Uh, so अभी तो कुछ भी नहीं. I just have been blessed with a son, and he's just 1 year old, and he does not give me enough time for. But obviously, I have fun with him. I take out some time playing cricket, uh, and maybe I take some time out for swimming, playing
You were
table
associated with
tennis.
the C Institute also. You had taken some sessions when you were in Calcutta.
Yeah, so for the EIRC, I was a faculty. I was taking up classes for OT and GMCS.
Okay. Last two questions. Number one, what is your 5 year, 10 year, 15 year vision? And then what is your final word of advice to youngsters watching this show?
Honestly, I haven't thought about it. So let's see how this journey goes. But I have this. I won't do internal audit for the rest of my life. That is for sure. So it is. Matlab, I'll tell you very honestly. I don't think. So when you are into the finance domain, you have maybe the ultimate goal of becoming a CFO, CEO, or maybe a a founder of some company or anything. But if you take CFO as your goal somewhere, you will not see a lot of internal audit guys becoming the CFO of any organization, right? So I would want to take it up maybe for a brief period, like 5 to 10 years more. I have a long career in front of me, and then maybe take up some, uh, you know, executive courses, or maybe an MBA or a full-time MBA, and then maybe uh, move on to other domains of finance, controllership, have a taste of
Explore, explore.
controllership,
I think I
treasury.
have seen you, I think always, ever since you met, that you have that hunger to learn, that hunger to contribute and take a 360-degree view. I think you do not go to an office just to draw a salary. I mean, that is one thing that I have seen consistently over the years. So I think once you explore, I think you'll do well in those other areas as well. So final thing, what would be Aditya's advice to his younger self or the ones who are watching this show?
So I would say it was again an interview where I was thrashed, like by one of the interviewers who luckily helped me grow. But he told me that you have what have you done? So I said I've done my chartered accountancy and my company secretary exam. So he said it was 6 to 7 years back. What have you done in the 6 to 7 years? How have you grown? So till then, I understood that doing a chartered accountancy or doing a company secretaryship is my educational uh, end of my educational run. It motivated me to pursue CIA, and I have completed my certified internal auditor and to take up certifications. So I would say to all youngsters, please don't stop at chartered accountancy. Completing chartered accountancy may be a milestone for you, but it will not be the end of the road for your educational pursuit of educational thing. So always keep learning, always, take up additional certifications. I think in each of the areas you get a lot of certification courses. It will help you add value to your, to your career, and it will give you a lot of insights. So once I have done my CIA, I have understood a lot of nuances about how I have to be performing, what I have to be saying, how I have to behave like a CAE, chief audit executive. So that helped me professionally.
This is really very nice. I think a good brief introduction. In fact, we've gone into the daily life of an internal auditor, understood the ramifications, how the mind of an internal auditor works. So this could be helpful for those of people who would want to build a career in internal audit. Thank you so much, Aditya, for sharing your views. And I wish you the very best in your career journey.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much for calling me.